Hey everyone, and welcome to another interview episode of Superhero Speak. I'm your host, Dave. And with me this week are the creators of a great indie comic, Social Studies, and it's Mike Virgilio.
Yep.
Virgilio, yes. And Adam WallyHawk. How are you guys doing?
Great. Happy to be here.
Doing good. Thanks for having us.
So the first question, everyone, I always give everyone, and either one of you can answer it. What is the elevator pitch for Social Studies?
Adam's usually better at the elevator pitch.
I had a really condensed version, and I can't remember it offhand now. But it's basically like the Social Studies is a double meaning. So it's a group of friends just figuring things out, going through high school, wild personalities, and just all those things in high school that, looking back, weren't really a big deal at the time, or like the end of the world. So we like to take like the mundane and try to just make them overreact and go crazy with it.
Yes. Actually, you sent me the first couple issues in the
I should have sent it to you like a week ago. It's a lot to look at.
And no, but I mean, it's funny just starting to read it, and it was like, the two friends, and the one friend's not talking to the other, and like that's the end of the world when you're in high school. Like,
yeah,
your friends just not back then. Yep. So it's good. So what inspired you guys to do this? Whose idea was it, and how'd you guys get together to work on it?
It's kind of funny because the first episode, if you read it, is actually based off of how Adam and I met in ninth grade. I was late to Earth Science.
Earth Science, yeah.
Yeah, and finally made it to the classroom. The only spot open was in the back next to Adam. I sat down and started doodling because I didn't pay great attention in high school. I think I was drawing the something Marines from StarCraft, or was it?
Space Marines.
Space Marines from StarCraft or Warhammer. And Adam looked over and saw it, and we just got chatting and just became like immediate buddies from that day out. And then the inspiration for it all really just came from years and years of us hanging out. We used to just draw goofy comics, making fun of people, making fun of ourselves, making fun of everything we could think of. Until eventually we were like, hey, we should actually kind of turn this into something. Instead of it just being random pen sketches in a lined composition notebook, we can turn this into something a little bit more colorful and appealing, and something that actually has a storyline. So we just kind of sat down one day and started doing it.
Yeah, so we've been doing Social Studies as you see it for, I think this is the third year.
Mm-hmm.
But really, we've been doing it for 24 years in a way.
Yeah.
Mike, even longer. These characters the personalities have definitely changed because there's a lot of us in them and people that we knew. But
Right.
He had the characters like basically designed since before I knew him.
Cool. And because it is partially autobiographical, I was kind of wondering this too. Because you kind of make a comment about this in the beginning of the book. Has anyone ever reached out to you and been like, hey, is that me? And like, what's this about?
Not yet, thankfully.
Shockingly, no. Because there's some stuff that we probably should have changed from real life more.
Yeah, some of it's way too obvious, and then we're just waiting for that letter, the cease and desist letter, like, hey, this guy's mad that you're doing this. Like, ugh.
We more talk about embarrassing things that we've done, though.
So is this the you've been doing it for, you said, 3 years, the actual book.
Yeah.
Kind of on and off for 24 years. Have you guys worked on anything else from comics, or is this like the first thing you guys have done?
Nothing to this degree, no. We've done like I said, just the funny, goofy stuff that we've worked on over the years, but like actually getting something published and work like that, no, this is about it.
Yeah, we did another fun one in high school it was basically like whatever the big pop culture thing. It was a sci-fi action, like military kind of thing.
Right.
But it was a lot of aliens, Warhammer 40K, StarCraft, The Matrix, like whatever big pop culture thing was there.
Right.
We took all the elements of the stuff we liked and just made our own
that was
thing
literally
out.
like Bic pen, a composition notebook.
Violated copious amounts of copyright.
Yeah, there's nothing we could do now.
But we never made any money off it, so we're good.
Yeah, it was really just to pass around like the friend group.
Mm-hmm.
So what was the push to like finally put this out then?
It's something we had talked about off and on for years, and I had one of those desk jobs that just drains the life out of you. Like you just dread getting up in the morning. But I had a lot of downtime and a word processor. Like I couldn't do what I wanted to like on the internet because it's a job. But I had Microsoft Word, so I just started writing, and I wrote basically like a TV pilot. That's kind of how we write it, more than a comic. And I sent it to Mike, and I was like, "What do you think about this? Do you want to make like a real go and like really do it?" So that was kind of the beginning. He read it, he liked it. Obviously, we tweaked it together and stuff. But
well, it'd been so long too that I really done anything with it that when I actually read it, it just sparked a flame, and I was like, "Wow, this is like literally reading the script to the show to what we've been trying to do." And it's like, yeah, let's get this going.
Yeah, you'll even notice like we slip up and say, oh, in episode 1 and episode 2 instead of issue because it's kind of how we see it.
Yeah. What was so how do you guys work? Is it, Adam, are you like doing full script and sending it to him, or do you collaborate on everything?
Well, basically, one thing that's been really good about the comic, which is the comic, but it's also kind of secondary to the comic, it gets us talking all the time because we'd go like a couple months without talking, touch base. Oh, we got to catch up. Now we're talking, some weeks we're talking every day. Sometimes it's a couple times a week, depending on work. So that's been really awesome. So we'll get talking. And a lot of times it's just catching up what's going on with our lives. Oh, hey, wouldn't it be funny if this happened to Turner? And then it just snowballs from there. So we'll try to come up with a general concept for an A story, which is the primary, and the B story, which a lot of times is just to like have something to cut away to. Or if the A story is a little bit more serious, we try not to go too serious too often. We'll try to make the B story that much wackier. So once we have the ideas, I'll sit down and write an actual script. I usually do a couple passes on it because my first pass is always trash. It's unreadable. So I need a couple to make it presentable. And then I'll send it to Mike. We'll both read it independently. And then we'll schedule a time where we're on the phone together, sitting at a computer, and punch up the jokes and tighten things up. And if something gets repetitive, cut it out. So we're kind of both the writers, but I will sit down and do an actual version. Then I send that off to Mike, and I guess you could talk about your process.
Yeah, no, once Adam and I kind of hammered out the actual written script, I just take it and I'll do everything in Photoshop. I'll basically write it out or draw it out kind of like and like Adam was saying, kind of going with the idea of it as episodes. It's formatted more like a storyboard than it is like like a DC comic would be. It's not exactly an action-based comic, so it's more written out like a storyboard for like a sitcom. So I'll draw it up, I'll ink it, and then once I'm done inking it in Photoshop, I send it back to Adam, and he actually does the coloring and the speech bubbles.
Oh, what's
every step of the process? It changes.
What's the reception been like from people who've read it, and like you getting good feedback? How's that part going?
For the most part, the problem is though our target audience is the only people we've really had so far, because we're terrible at marketing, is mostly friends and family. So nobody's really sat down and be like, "Oh, it's trash." But we
have done a couple smaller cons. Well, I've done them over here in New England. It's tougher. I'm in upstate New York. Mike's in Seattle, so it's tough for us to do a con together. Where one day we will be doing it. But I did a couple last year, and we did really well. Like our first con, we sold about 40 issues, which we're told is very well.
Yeah,
for your first
that
con.
Is really good. Yeah.
And it's been overwhelmingly positive. But like Mike was saying, is like we're getting a lot of positive. It's just not a pool as big as we would like.
Yeah, and we're neither of us are marketing experts, so
we're trying.
We've decided we're not willing to dance on TikTok yet to promote this. So
we also thought our target audience would be like 14-year-olds, like us talking to our younger selves.
Yeah,
but we've mostly been getting like the nostalgia audience. Like they say, "Oh, this reminds me of Nicktoons. This reminds me of Ed, Ed and Eddie. This looks like Recess," and that's
what I love hearing. Because that's exactly the inspiration for us.
Yeah, that's a huge compliment for us.
I was going to say that there's a very like cartoony Saturday morning feel to it.
Yeah, exactly.
That's another pitch that I'll give sometimes is like, if Nickelodeon called us and said, "We're bringing back the Nicktoons, we need new ideas, this is ours."
Yeah.
Awesome. I would watch it.
Well, we got
but again, But it appeals to the nostalgia in me, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like my girlfriend has twins that just graduated high school, and you know, my son's 21. Like they have a much different experience today than we did, I feel. So
and that's
I think
kind of the tough part in our writing, because we didn't really have smartphones and stuff like that back then.
right.
You know, so trying to integrate that into the writing nowadays, we don't want it to just be like all social media and cell phones and everything like that. We want it to be that nostalgic feel that we had in high school, where it's like you get out of school and you don't go straight home. You get on your bike and you go out, and you do crazy stuff. And but then we kind of wanted to throw in some use of the cell phone, because I mean that's what people do nowadays. You know, we can't just say, oh, they don't exist. So it's kind of tough. But
we talked about actually setting it in the 90s, but it felt like it would be too much heavy lifting to remind people that, oh, this is 1997. And then it's like, it was too specific because it's a cartoon. So it just kind of exists at no time.
Just put the kids in oversized pants and flannels and they'll know.
Jinko jeans. Yeah. Perfect.
And I will say this, you guys are farther along than a lot of indie creators, because you've got quite a few issues done in the can and are ready to go. Like, no offense to some of the indie creators out there, but I've interviewed people, they've got issue 1 out, and then 2 years later they finally have issue 2 out. You know, and so I mean, like, you know, hats off for that. I definitely think there's an audience for this. You know, you guys are just getting your feet wet at this point. But
yeah, I think it's out there. We just got to figure out how to get to them. That's
all. we talk a lot about well, one, like we are actually a little behind on what we wanted to do with the issues, and I don't mean that as like a backhanded compliment us kind of thing, but we had this schedule and it was just impossible to maintain with jobs and wives, and you know, things get in the way.
Right.
But our agreement is like it never stops completely. It can slow down. We don't want it to, but it will. It's inevitable, but it can never stop. And the other thing is we write every issue as if there's a million people banging at our front doors looking for it.
Right.
We also decided to, we agreed as a partner group here that even if we never get a single reader, just because the two of us get a kick out of it, we're just going to keep doing it.
Yeah. We're at least seeing the characters through high school.
Yeah.
It's funny because we've had that conversation about the podcast sometimes. Even if there's just, you know, us watching it, we enjoy doing it, so we'll keep going. But
yeah, that's how it should be.
And that stuff I think comes through in a lot of things. I mean, I'm hoping it does for our comic, but a lot of like indie creators, whether it's a podcast or music or comic or indie film, even make your passion project, and that should come through in the work.
Yeah, I was actually that's a good lead into the question I was about to ask. Because there's a lot of people that want to start something, whether it's a podcast, a comic, a book. Like, what kind of advice would you give to someone who like wants to do this?
For me, it's a little two-pronged. It is the best time to start is yesterday, that kind of old cliche. Yeah. But another thing we did, and why we have so many issues, is we said we want to do this, and we know an issue a month. Like, if we start one August 1st for a September 1st release, it's impossible. Right. And we also didn't know what we didn't know about making a comic. But even if it was our full-time job, that would be a stretch to get 25 full-color pages out. So we actually had our entire first chapter done, colored, ready to go to the printer before issue 1 was out. So we fell behind a little bit, but we do have issue 12 is done, but not quite released. Issue 13 is being colored now. Mike's drawing issue 14. So we always have something in the works so we can.
Right. Yeah. I mean, if
the
you
other
love
thing
it,
too, it's like, yeah, if you love it, get into it, do everything you can to better yourself and really push it out there. But at the same time, if you fall flat on your face, who cares? You know, pick it up and try again, or you know, try something different. It is what it is. It's
it's something you just said there, Michael. Like if you're doing a comic, your first one is not going to be your best one. That doesn't mean just slap down whatever you do and get it out there. Do the best you can, but also understand it will never be our first issue has been drawn 4 times.
And I would actually argue we don't really feel like, just in my own opinion, Adam and I can kind of agree, like we don't really start to hit our stride for the first couple of episodes. And then we start to realize like we're getting the personalities out there, we're getting the jokes kind of hammered down according to how people act and things like that. So yeah, don't just look at the first project and just be like, oh, this is trash. Like, I'm never going to be able to recover from this. Like, you just find your stride. I mean, how many comics out there, even like looking at the major ones like Walking Dead, you know, the first issue was drawn by a completely different artist. And it was, you know, I would argue not my favorite style of art, but I still kept reading it, you know, just because I wanted to see what happened next. So just, you know, learn from it, develop, evolve, and eventually, you know, you'll be pretty happy with what you come out with.
Yeah.
Do you said you're working on issue 13 as we speak. Do you have a plan for how far you want to go with this, or are you just going to keep going as long as it's fun to do?
Both.
Yeah, we do. We have a lot.
We have a living document of an outline because we're taking the characters through high school. But we decided instead of each chapter of the book, I mean, 6-7 issues to a chapter, isn't a school year, it's a season. So chapter 1 is fall. They start high school, they go up through winter. Chapter 2 is winter, then it goes into spring and then summer, and then it'll be the next phase of high school. So that way we can also age the characters as time goes.
Right.
And we do also have ideas for afterwards, you know, again, borrowing from our lives, where one character we know if we continue is going to join the Marines. One character, it might be the same one, might be a different one, is going to be a cop. One's going to go to college. One's not going to know what to do with their lives, because that's what we all did at 18 to 20.
Yep. So true. I was about to say, because then when you get to that point where in the story where obviously you guys went to high school together, but now one of you is on the West Coast, one of you is in New England. It's like, you know, and it's cool that you came back together through this, you know, and you're able to do this. But like, yeah, life happens, and you end up.
Well, that's actually an even crazier thing. Is we were only in high school together for about a year and a half.
Yeah, yeah. We had 9th grade and half of 10th grade, and then I ended up moving to Europe actually for a year and a half.
Yeah, that was pre-social media, so it was tough staying in touch.
Yeah,
we had AOL Instant Messenger, and we had to basically time it. We had like an hour window a day that we would either be awake or available. And when I came back from Europe, it was my senior year of high school. I went to Fredericksburg, Virginia, so we still weren't, you know, within a drivable distance, you know, on a daily basis. So I think it also speaks to our ability to kind of like, our friendship over the years you're gonna see how that plays out with the comic. I think that, you know, the loyalty, you know, surround yourself with people who are just as weird as you are, and that's how you get through crappy situations. You know, that's how we did it. So
I'm going to ask the obvious question: military family?
No, actually, my dad was a customs special agent, and they had a position that opened up in the U.S. Embassy in Paris. And when he got selected for it, they moved the whole family out there. So yeah, government, just not military.
Right.
But yeah,
cool. So all right, then here's another question we like to ask. So we end the podcast by saying, don't let your cape caught in the door, which means it started off as a joke, but it's come to mean like, don't let your shortcomings or your foibles get in the way of reaching a goal. What is a shortcoming that you've overcome to reach a goal in your life?
For me, it's procrastination. That's it drives everybody I know nuts, because I will wait till the last minute to do something, and then right at the last minute, I'll always find an excuse. Oh, well, this happened, so I can't do it today. But getting over that hurdle and just diving into it and getting things done, and you feel like you really accomplished something afterwards too. So I think that was my biggest issue.
Okay.
I'm trying to remember the exact quote, and it's a horrible guy who gave it, but it's a great quote. Ray Kroc, the guy who stole McDonald's from the McDonald's brothers.
Oh yeah.
He had a quote that was something like, "Nothing in the world is stronger than persistence." I mean, there's a version of it here that I just looked up. Nothing in the world can take the place of persistence. Talent will not. Nothing is more common than unsuccessful individual with talent. I've never had anything come natural, but I just do not stop. And I think that's the key to pretty much anything, is just show up, put in the work, fix one mistake, do it again, do it again, do it again. I didn't know how to color a comic until we colored the first issue, and I took a bunch of
Right.
lessons and had some
And
people.
that was really cool too, because we were just going to leave it as is with just black and white. And
Yeah.
Adam was like, you know what? I feel like it would be better colored. And he took a bunch of lessons, and it would not be what it is today if we didn't color him.
So
Cool.
I guess that's another piece of advice: is if you think you can't do something, there's a way. Find it, especially with technology now.
Come on, we have YouTube. You can learn anything these days.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. What's
an astronaut on YouTube?
There's a good question. Besides coloring, what's something else you learned along the way of creating this comic, right? Because like you guys just decided to do it. You weren't trained in this in any way. So what's something you've learned along the way about this process?
Backgrounds for me. I was perspective. I understand perspective, but I think that my strongest aspect when I'm drawing comics or cartoons, stuff like that, is just getting the backgrounds right. And I will tell you straight up, I'm still not the strongest thing. Anybody reading it will know, like, it might not be completely, in perspective or correct or whatever, but sometimes you just got to go with it. Just keep learning. I think they're getting better over time. And
yeah, even a short time, because look at issue like 1 through 3 and take a look at the backgrounds, and then look at issues 6 and 7. Just in that 6 month span, it's a night and day difference.
Yeah. A lot of times we just left it a blank background and put scratch marks like they're standing near a wall and colored it some generic color, and it kind of like, that's good enough,
For me, I think it's word economy, because our comic is a big cast of characters. I mean, just the core group, you got 6 or 7 people are usually all together, and it's them just yelling at each other and talking and things like that. It's a sitcom in a comic book page. But then when you get the artwork, I'm not going to cover up all the artwork with just rambling. So every time I write dialogue, I do a whole pass of the script where, is this word absolutely necessary? What's a shorter version to say that? And just try to truncate it down as much as I can.
That's actually something we've kind of coordinated too. So when I'm penciling it per se, I'll reference that exact portion in the script and actually draw out a big speech bubble, probably bigger than we need, just to leave space in that box so we know we have room for the text and all that.
Yeah. Do you guys regret that? There is a large cast in this comic, and do you regret including so many characters? No.
No, I love them all. I really do.
The scenes I love the best is when they're all like in Turner's basement arguing about something, but then somebody's on their own tangent, so they're not quite replying in time with everybody else, and then they go off on a whole separate tangent from that even, and they get totally sidetracked, and then one person has to bring them back in. It's insane to write, insane for Mike to draw, and a page like that takes me like 7 hours to color, because everyone has to be in different color clothing, and then the shading, because you don't want them all mold into one. But it's so much better.
What's fun too is the oddball couples you'll find throughout too. Like, you have like the 2 characters on this end who have been friends for a long time, and this guy's dating this girl, and she kind of got brought into the group. And then you'll find the girl who's kind of an outsider hanging out with one of the primary guys, and it's just like a weird dynamic, so it kind of adds for more goofy situations and awkward situations for us to write too, which I think works really well.
Yeah, we do like to look at our outline and say, like, okay, Roy had kind of a couple main stories this chapter. We haven't done much with Iris, or, oh, we haven't had Iris get paired up with Len's latest girlfriend. Let's do that and see how weird that would be.
Cool. Is it? See, and the thing is, like, this, I actually have never published anything, but I've written a couple things, and like I usually keep the cast small because, like, my worry is, I might start attributing a personality quirk to someone else because I forgot that it goes to this person. Is any fear? I mean, I guess at this point, no. But was there any ever fear of like mixing up personalities as you were writing?
I would actually say it was the opposite. I think originally everybody's personality was interchangeable. That was the problem we were facing, because it was like, this joke can be said by anybody. Everybody had the same reaction, because we were basing it off of how, maybe Adam and I would react. So it's like, well, why wouldn't this guy act that way? Why wouldn't she act that way? And then we're like, well, we can't do that. We have to make sure that they have their own opinions, own personalities, own reactions. And from there on out, we were like, hey, this is how so-and-so would react to this. This is how, and we make sure we document it, like Adam was saying, with the living documents.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we'll sometimes have to revert back to that and be like, hey, how do you think so-and-so would react to this? We'll look at it and say, okay, he would do X, Y, Z. So I wouldn't call it a fear, but it was definitely something we have to be cognizant about and make sure that we stick pretty strictly to it.
Yeah, especially between Turner and Wesley, because those are more of our, like, if there's a scale of realistic to cartoon, those guys are like Looney Tunes.
Okay.
So
yeah,
they're the hardest ones to keep straight. But if we have a joke and then a punchline, if we don't both say, oh, that's definitely a Turner line, we kind of rework the joke so it is a little bit more specific to who it should be for, or we'll change the character in the scene.
Okay, cool. So you had said that you're bad at marketing, and it's been mostly friends and family at this point. Have you guys kickstarted any of this?
We had our first 6 issues come out just like on our website, trying to push them ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And then we did a trade or a collection. That's what I sent you, the first 7
Right.
issues in a trade. We kickstarted that. Actually, we did Indiegogo, but we crowdfunded that, and we made enough to print it, but we didn't make like gangbuster sales. We've been considering either like hiring a company for the next one to help us with it, or maybe just like kickstart individual issues, because people crowdfunding indie comics, that's where a lot of indie readers go to find indie comics.
Yes.
So we might do that. It's just really tough for us to have a month to get on like as many podcasts as possible and push it as much as possible. And
right.
even just us organizing this. I mean, we were back and forth with you like what, 5-6 times.
Yeah.
Honestly, we were both around.
It's pretty much a miracle that I had time to do it today.
I'm going to say this. I'm going to keep this in the show. Talk to JD. He's like the king of, not the king, but he's really good at Kickstarter and knowing best ways to market it and like what your goals should be and those kinds of things too. So
I will reach out to him. I'm pretty sure I interviewed him for So Wizard, but he's writing a bunch of novels. So
yeah.
He's busy. Yeah. He's really prolific.
Yeah. Get him now before school starts, because he is teaching now. So that's
okay. Yeah. So we'll have to reach out this month.
Yeah. And along those lines, here's the most important question of the interview: where can people find? Where can people find social studies online? Where can they find you guys?
Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Adam. You're better at this than me. My screen went black for a second.
Our website is socialstudiescomic.com. All the issues are available there. A lot of them are on Comixology, but it's a lot harder to get them to actually post there. So they're also have a lot on Global Comics, which is spelled with an X at the end of comics. And we're on the Global Comics Unlimited thing. So if you do the subscription for unlimited reading, you can read all of social studies. We also sell the print ones on our website. And we're on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and I'm sad to admit TikTok. Social Studies Comic, and I think Twitter is Social Studies CB, just because the character limit.
You're not on Twitter anymore. You're on X
now. X or whatever. Yeah, I don't.
It changed?
Yeah, he changed it like 2 days ago.
I'm not on Twitter anyway, so I don't know.
We make a 1 minute, or I mean a 10-second 3x4 video, and I use a thing that posts it to all at the same time. I am not a social media guy.
No, it is. I am still figuring it out. All those links will also be down below in the description, so make sure you guys check them out. And the question that we normally like to end on, and you guys can answer together individually, to talk up to you. How do you measure success?
Adam, you want to go first?
In the case of the comic, maybe it's just to not be depressed at how little we're selling. If we're having fun doing it, it's worth doing. So I would say that the comic is not as successful as we want it to be, but it's already a small success just in that regard.
Yeah, to kind of coattail on that, how happy does it make you as the creator? Because I can even tell you right now, I'm not saying this to sound like, oh, we put such an amazing product out that even I think is funny, but I will sit there rereading our comics and laugh to myself constantly. read them like 50 times. I drew it. I still sit there laughing at it, at the jokes and stuff like that, because it brings me back and makes, nostalgic and happy. So I think if you're happy with the outcome, then you're already successful.
Cool. All right. Well, I think that's a good place to put a pin in this one. And again, links are down below. Guys, go check them out. If you knew these guys in high school, you might want to send them a cease and desist letter. That is completely up to you. But as always, thanks for watching. Don't let your cape be caught in the door. See you next time.